Self-doubt doesn't whisper, it screams. It shows up when you're about to speak in a meeting, or when you scroll through social media and see someone your age with six-pack abs, a six-figure income, and a dog that can do backflips. It creeps in right before you start something new and says, "Who do you think you are?" It's not just internal. Self-doubt can sabotage your relationships, your focus, your direction in life. Worst of all, it wears your face when it talks to you. But what if the way out isn't some quote you saved on Pinterest? What if the cure is buried in the frozen soil of the North, among battle-scarred warriors, brutal winters, and the quiet philosophy of a Viking who once believed he had no enemies? Meet Thorfinn. Not the idealized Viking hero with sparkly abs. A broken boy, raised by death, fueled by revenge, hollowed out by regret, who became a man of peace. And in the quietest moment of his life, with no sword in hand and no enemy before him, that's when he defeated self-doubt. Let's break this down, not just as a character study, but as a survival guide. Thorfinn's transformation isn't just anime, it's ancient therapy. Maybe even the map you need to escape your own storm. Rewind to Season 1 Thorfinn, a walking panic attack with a dagger. Anger, sky high. Revenge, his only fuel. Self-worth, tied to killing one man, Askeladd. That's how self-doubt starts. It convinces you there's only one path to success. You think, if I don't become that, I'm nothing. Step off that narrow path, it hits you. You've failed. But that's a lie. A dramatic one we buy into because it gives us false control. Thorfinn believed strength equals vengeance, but that belief enslaved him, literally and emotionally. Over time, he realized what Miyamoto Musashi wrote centuries ago. There is more than one path to the top of the mountain. This is Viking wisdom in disguise. Self-doubt feeds on rigid beliefs. One way to live, one timeline, one success story. But real strength, real peace comes when you widen your path. Remember the farm arc? No sword, no screaming, just work. Dirt, sweat, quiet. There, Thorfinn transforms. He learns that pulling a plow takes more strength than pulling a blade. He learns to say, "I'm sorry," with the same intensity he once said, "I'll kill you." When he tells Einar he wants to build a land without war, that's him choosing a new path to the mountain. One not paved in blood. So you're an artist, but you're not posting because you're not growing fast. Or you're in a job that feels beneath your potential, and you think, if I'm not thriving by 25, I've failed. That's the trap. You've let someone else draw your map, but you can turn the sword into a spade and build your own damn Vinland. Thorfinn didn't stop being a warrior. He redefined what war meant. It wasn't about killing enemies. It was about defeating the voice saying he was worthless without revenge. That's the genius move. Ask yourself, where have I locked myself into a single path? What belief is feeding my self-doubt? What other mountains might exist? Write down 3 alternate paths to the same goal. Your purpose might not be in the spotlight. It might be in the soil. Here's a truth no one likes saying. Self-doubt isn't always about the world. Sometimes it's about what you think of you. And that's a war most people don't even know they're losing. Thorfinn thought his enemy was Askeladd, the man who killed his father. But when Askeladd died, he crumbled because the real enemy wasn't Askeladd. It was himself. We all have an internal Askeladd, that version of us we hate. The weak, guilty, scared part we try to outrun with hustle, perfectionism, or pretending we're fine. Carl Jung called this the shadow self, what we hide or deny. Thorfinn carried his shadow like a second sword. Until he looked inward, that shadow ruled him. Viking refrain, you must name the monster before you can slay it. There's a brutal scene. Thorfinn's having nightmares. He sees the faces of the people he's killed. He's falling. No weapon, just guilt. And in the dream, Askeladd asks, "Why are you here?" He doesn't have an answer. The first crack in his armor. That's when he realizes self-doubt isn't from failure. It's from unforgiven pain. Maybe your shadow isn't made of blood and war. Maybe it's that project you quit and still regret. That relationship where you hurt someone. The dream you abandoned because you felt unworthy. And instead of facing it, you distract yourself. You doom scroll. You ghost people. Because deep down, you don't ask, why am I here? Self-doubt multiplies in silence. But the moment Thorfinn said, I don't know how to live without hate, healing began. Clarity started sharpening him more than any blade. He didn't fix everything overnight. He just got honest. Do this before bed tonight. Journal for 5 minutes. Ask, what am I ashamed of? What fear keeps showing up? What version of me am I avoiding? You don't need a sword. You need a mirror. This is your Viking confession booth. Don't skip it because, like Thorfinn learned, you can't build peace if you're still at war with yourself. Here's a hard pill. Served cold like a Viking breakfast, you don't need to win the war. You just need to win today's battle. But modern self-doubt is sneaky. It tells you that unless you overhaul your entire life by next Monday, you're failing. It says, if I'm not already disciplined, shredded, rich, calm, productive, happy, and in love, I'm behind. And just like that, you spiral. You compare your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. You measure your chapter 2 against their chapter 20, and the scoreboard always against you. Thorfinn lived in that spiral too. He went from a war machine to empty shell. No mission, no revenge, just surviving. But then comes one of the most overlooked shifts in Vinland Saga. He starts stacking small wins, pulling weeds, carrying lumber, apologizing. Not epic, not flashy, but life-saving. And that perfectly fits the ancient quote, today is victory over yourself of yesterday. Tomorrow is your victory over lesser men. Forget beating the world. Beat yesterday you. On Ketil's farm, Thorfinn starts off silent, withdrawn, haunted, but then Einar enters, the purest cinnamon roll of a Viking farmer, and Thorfinn begins to shift. They work, they struggle, they laugh. Thorfinn changes, not through a grand battle, but through daily presence. There's a moment where he chooses not to retaliate when he's hit, and Einar's shocked. That's not weakness, that's a win. So what does that look like for you? Waking up and stretching instead of grabbing your phone? That's a win. Writing 200 words for that novel you've been avoiding? Another win. Saying no to that one toxic habit for one day? You just leveled up. Self-doubt feeds off unrealistic timelines, but discipline is built on tiny, consistent victories. The war is long, but you don't need to win it all today. You just need to outgrow your past self, inch by inch. That's how Thorfinn crawled out of his emotional grave, not by becoming a perfect man, but by waking up and doing one small thing better. Try this. Pick up one behavior you want to improve. Set a tiny win for it today. Not a big goal, just a tiny one. Example, 1 minute of breath work. 1 honest message to a friend. 1 walk around the block. Then tomorrow, repeat. Track it if you want. Reward yourself, but make it yours. Because self-doubt loses its grip the moment you realize you don't need to be great tomorrow. You just need to be better than yesterday. Self-doubt doesn't always look like fear. Sometimes it looks like noise, endless scrolling, replaying a conversation from 3 years ago, imagining fake arguments that haven't happened. That's not laziness. It's your brain tangled in ropes that serve no purpose. Miyamoto Musashi once said, "Do nothing that is of no use." Viking version, don't carry a sword that can't cut. That's what Thorfinn learns. In Season 2, he puts the sword down, not out of weakness, but because hatred and guilt were dead weight. They didn't protect him. They trapped him. Remember the dream of the pit? The people he killed, dragging him down? He wakes up choking, not from a sword wound, but from the weight of his own mind. And slowly, he stops replaying the story. He doesn't forget. He just stops feeding it. Your ropes might look like replaying old mistakes, stalking people you've outgrown, obsessing over whether you're behind. These are loops. They whisper, what if? But Vikings didn't live in what ifs. They lived in what's next. Thorfinn's freedom didn't start when he found redemption. It started when he stopped giving energy to what no longer served him. That includes self-hate, overthinking, the voice that says you can't move on. You are allowed. But first, you cut the ropes. Next time a toxic thought pops up, ask, Is this helping or hurting me? If it's hurting, drop it. Redirect your focus to action. A walk, a task, a breath. Bonus. Write it down. Throw it away. Literally. Self-doubt hides in useless loops. Cut the rope. Move forward. When life gets chaotic, we default to emotion. Freeze. Spiral. Ghost people procrastinate. Why? Because we're reacting, not acting from principle. But Vikings didn't live by vibes. They lived by a code. And eventually, so did Thorfinn. He didn't find peace through passivity. He made a decision. I want to build a land without war. That wasn't a dream. That was direction. A creed. Even when everything in him screamed to pick up that sword again, he didn't. That's not weakness. That's power. There's a moment where Thorfinn is tested. He could fight. He wants to fight, but he doesn't. Because his new code says, no more killing, no more hatred, no more reacting from the past. He stops improvising. He starts living on purpose. Ever notice how it's easier to stay calm when you've already decided? Like, I don't respond to text after 9. I walk when I'm anxious. I don't compare, I build. That's your Viking code. You don't overthink, you just follow it. Self-doubt thrives in confusion, but once you write your code, you become like Thorfinn. Scarred, still healing, but no longer lost. You know what you stand for. That makes every decision easier. Right now, write 3 personal rules you want to live by this week. Keep them simple. Make them yours. Example, I act even when I'm afraid. I don't compare. I create. I finish what I start if it aligns with my values. Next time doubt creeps in, don't argue with it, check the code. Thorfinn didn't defeat self-doubt by becoming stronger than everyone else. He defeated it by becoming stronger than the voice telling him he had to stay the same. He laid down the sword. He picked up purpose, and he walked a new path. You can too. You are not your mistakes. You are not your lowest moment. You're not the voice in your head saying you're not enough. You are becoming. You are changing. You are writing your saga, one decision at a time.